As dungeon masters, we are responsible for everything that goes on behind the screen. And at the top of that list, I think, is the long forgotten anti-hero, the antagonist, the boss. And what we're going to do with this video is talking about the boss and how we can structure our development of that boss so that we have a more well-rounded and enjoyable antagonist, if you will, for our players to face. So buckle up, strap in, all the things, and let's get started. To die for. Now, when we're making a villain, we have to first and foremost decide on a couple of things. There's any number of angles that we could take, but these four things are really going to help us structure, more than anything, the boss, the villain that we're making, that antagonist that is going to cause so much conflict for our players. And the first thing, of course, is a basic description. Now, I know that sounds arbitrary, like, oh, thanks, man. That's some real wisdom. Thanks, Allfather. You laid some wisdom on me. But that's actually more important than you might realize. The key word being basic, the basic description. A lot of times we have, Erthos, you're freaking awesome. I appreciate you, man. The importance here is the basic part of that. It's the aspect that we don't want to overwork this. If you talk to any artist, an artist will say you have to know when to put the brush down. You have to know when to walk away from the work and say, okay, it's done. And that's the very same thing with our basic description of our villain. If we sit there and we work out and map every single detail, it's not going to come across in the same way that it would if we were to leave it up to our players' imagination. Because remember, just like with building a foundation and making that solid structure that we've done with our previous videos in this series, one mind is good, that's great. What you can come up with is great, but you've got 4, 5, 6 other people at the table that can help you create something so much better. And if you're not taking advantage of that, you're missing out. You're missing out on so much potential. And if you can't let go of that creative aspect, I would encourage you to go write a book, because you're missing the point of the communal storytelling that's taking place here. So, the basic description, think of that along the lines of, if you were to describe, what's a great villain? Darth Vader, right? Just a really good, solid villain here. And you were to describe Darth Vader to somebody that didn't know Darth Vader. You were introducing Darth Vader for the first time. What would you describe most? Perhaps the unique shape of the helm, the cloak, a life control unit that's strapped to his chest that controls some things, and maybe the red saber. In less than 5 sentences, we mapped out everything that Vader needs to be for the moment. What Vader is going to be discovered by our players along the way. And that is going to be so much more powerful for you as a storyteller, as a dungeon master and game master, irrespective of the system that you're using, whether it's 5th edition or Pathfinder or, I don't know, kids with bikes. Having a basic description is going to be more powerful in the long run. It kind of falls under the show, don't tell aspect of writing. It's providing your reader, your protagonists, your players, with just enough to get a good idea of, okay, let their imagination run wild. And then, if you want to, we need a bubble, right? One of those pro storytelling tip. Then ask your players for something about the villain that their character feels, right? You've described what they saw. Now, one of my favorite things to do, okay, player X, how does this visage, beholding this visage, what does that make your character feel? And ooh, man, the answers that you get from your players are going to create some bone-chilling, goosebump-making, really glorious magic. And that is going to bring serious investment into your world, into the villain, into the conflict. And it's something that you can't beat. You really can't beat that. Now, we've talked a little bit, all right, here's the basic description and what we'll discover along the way. The first thing that you're going to discover as you, oh boy, come on, spelling, objectives. Objectives and goals. This is for you. This is for you, the storyteller. This is for seems very Lovecraftian. Sometimes it's all about what we don't describe that's the scariest. 100% Earthos. That's exactly right. Hey, Things I Know. Good to have you, man. I don't know how long you've been on there. I haven't looked at my computer in a minute. Glad that you're here. But yeah, very, very Lovecraftian, right? It's in the emptiness, in the void, you're able to describe a lot. So our objectives and our goals. This is the objectives and goals of your villain. And the reason that we create this, right? So this is, the description is so that our players can see what our villain is. The objectives and goals is so that we can see who our villain is. This is so that we can understand, okay, in this situation, our villain would do X or Y or Z, depending upon the given situation. Because I know that my villain's objectives are to accomplish this ritual at all costs, okay, what needs to happen to accomplish the ritual? Well, they need to do this, this, and this. Okay, they are going to do this, this, and this, regardless of what your players are doing. They will find a way to do that. That is their goal. That's their objective. And if your players get in their way of accomplishing that, they will have no qualms about dispatching them. Or perhaps understanding their objectives and understanding their goals will allow you to realize, well, they actually might. They might have qualms about that because we understand who the villain is, right? That's the purpose of that. Understanding who the villain is. First one so that the players can see. Second one so that we can see who the villain is. Then we talk about the style. The style is, I like to refer to it as a genre, I suppose. Most of my villains fall somewhere in the lines, in the network of horror. Right? There's some aspect of horror, even if it's light or it's kind of on the thriller end of horror, that still fits into that box, right? So understanding the style and genre, it kind of falls into the objectives and goals. It lets you know, hey, this could get graphic, as you know, whatever is. We could describe any number of things, but it could be some graphic gore could occur if our villain is down for that, like if they're cool with that. Or perhaps your villain's a little more, you know, their objectives and goals, they're a little more squeamish. And so while they may have henchmen or something to accomplish that, they would never get their hands so dirty as to do that themselves. And that, all that does is it helps with you being able to see, understanding, okay, this villain is fits the beast archetype, the beast archetype. It has no qualms about the gore that's going to happen, and it might use ambushes and thriller and that sort of characterization to accomplish those goals, which are to feed or to hunt or to spread or whatever Lovecraftian thing you want to come up with. That's great. That's excellent. This just helps us to understand that a little bit better. The next we want to talk about is skills. This is skills and abilities that are unique. I love using modules as a reference. I will use a module to get ideas for other things so that I can spice up whatever monster manual creature or creation I have made. That is the whole point. While you could read from the book and use modules all the time, and man, if that's your style, props, because I tried it and it was not my favorite experience. It took away a lot of the creativity that we can gain from creating our own world and homebrewing our creatures. But if our villains are mundane perhaps is too strong a word, generic, straight from the monster manual, right? Kirkland brand monster. There's a new, the Kirkland brand monster, the generic off-the-shelf thing. A lot of your players have probably been playing role-playing games or Dungeons and Dragons for a while, and we may have some amount of meta knowledge available to us. And so as much as you might have a player who's like, oh, I'm going to be good, I'm not going to meta knowledge, man, that's one of the hardest things for a player, is to not bring on the meta. Oh my goodness, you guys, I am so sorry. I have been ignoring the YouTube chat. Let me see here. Reminds me when Stan Lee would say that people asked him who would win, the hero or the villain, hero A or hero B, whoever would decide to win. Yeah, definitely. Manga, I'm glad you're here, man. It's been a minute. I'm glad to see you again. Something Lovecraftian, you might not be able to understand their motive. Right, true. And that could go into the skills and abilities. Instagram, if you're curious what I keep gesturing to down here, it's notes. And so if you want to see what I'm writing, come over to YouTube or Twitch. Just follow the bio link in my profile and come on over. But I like to use skills and abilities that change things up, that make your character, this character, your antagonist, feel unique in the moment. So what's cooler than, all right, so we've got this bandit captain. Yippee, right? And they've been doing whatever mean thing to this village. It sounds like every Western ever, right? Some gang of outlaws has been giving this village a hard time, and so we wrangle up a couple other outlaws to go fight the gang, right? But what cool skills can you give the outlaw captain to make him more than just the mook, just another minion, or the bandit captain in the back of the book? Things that I like to use are mobility skills. Anything that gives the captain greater survivability. Because if there's one thing that we know about 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, is that your players can lay down some heat when they want to. They can burn everything and they will just wipe out your bad guy. That's how we hear these tales of, oh yeah, I killed my big bad evil guy in a round. That's because CR, the challenge rating, is a general rule of thumb for us to go by. It's not the hands down law. It's not going to save you from a well-placed crit and your divination wizard giving your paladin a crit so that he can just drop 100 damage in a single round. Like, you see your players really start to synergize their abilities and min-max each other's abilities. It gets out of control, right? So anything that can get your character in and out of the combat, solid. Anything that can get your bandit captain to activate his minions so that they have kind of their own legendary action and they get to go twice in a round of initiative. That could be huge, especially if you've got 10 mooks on the table. You're able to activate them again, potentially dealing double the damage before they're wiped out. And maybe we won't talk about that. This is about the villain right now, not about how we handle combat. I'll have to do a separate video on how I handle combat. But mobility, excellent. I love a good Misty Step reaction. So when the villain takes damage, it will Misty Step away. Lair actions are awesome. Manga, exactly. A buff or a spell trait. Yeah. So everyone craps on 4th edition. That's because it wasn't well structured for players. But from a DM's perspective, 4th edition was awesome. The monsters' feats and abilities and things that were kicking around 4th edition, very fun. And so if you're looking for good inspiration on special skills and abilities to give to your players as maybe a reward, or making items or making monsters more special, go check out 4th edition. That's all I'll say about that. But yeah, so I've been using just the college ruled for this because the notebook that I had on hand for this campaign. And so this is all based for the Rising Tide campaign. So that's specifically what that's been built for. But yes, normally I use grid paper. Thanks for noticing things I know. Mobility, yeah, so that's a great one. Also, check out 4th edition if you care to, because 4th edition is awesome for Dungeon Masters. Meh for playing, great for DMs. All right. And that is normally the end of what I give people for how to make a villain. If you follow me on Instagram, you probably have seen a reel of mine in the last couple days about how to make a boss. And that covers essentially this. But I'm going to add on 2 more things here because we're making bosses, right? Not just a boss, but bosses in general. And the things that I would include here are environment, Jiminy Christmas, whatever. It's on the paper. Environment. Can you spell it? Can you tell that I don't care about spelling very much? It's not my thing. Environment. This is crucial. Absolutely crucial. And this is where manga on YouTube is absolutely on point. Because the lair. Use your environment to tell the story. It's called mise en scene. Mise en scene. It's called, that's using the scenery to tell the story. Okay? Yeah, Earthos, exactly. There was so much good stuff in 4th edition. For anybody that watches this, I would recommend go to a used bookstore, track the old 4th edition monster manuals down. Some really good gold in there for you to sift out. But using your environment to tell a story. How much better is the villain, the environment? It's when you're able to depict that. It kind of falls into the description, the show don't tell aspect of your villain. You can really set the ambiance, the vibe, if you will, the mood of your campaign if you're able to depict a great scene. And the environment makes so much of that. Swashbuckling Bob. Always good to have you, man. If your players have to become the very thing they are trying to take down, you're doing it right. And that is good. Because we'll talk about the morality here in a second. But yeah, I want to talk about that, Bob. Because I definitely agree. I agree that you should be... Hey, Birdman on Twitch. Good to see you, man. The ability to give your players moments where they need to grow. And I repeat that because the reason I'm telling you this is because in writing, this is from the perspective of writing. We are telling stories, and stories that mean things to us and have meaning. Otherwise, why are we bothering? The objective is to depict a story, to tell a story that makes your players stop and think, did we just do the right thing? And if they're able to say, yes, we did the right thing, and they hold to that, you know that those players have made those decisions and grown and put themselves in that position where they agree with that. Great. But then the moment that your players sit there and they say, oh, maybe maybe that wasn't the right choice. And then they're second guessing themselves. And then their character has to grow and develop with that knowledge of what they have done. That is growth. And character growth is essential to good storytelling. Because as great as it is to have the noble knight set off on his quest, and he slays the embodiment of evil, the ultimate foe, who's evil for no other reason than cackling madness evil. Okay, I mean, that's a story, that's a way. But how much better is it if you set out on this quest and you realize that it's harder than you thought it was, and you have to make decisions, and people die, and you lose people, and friends along the way are lost, and friends along the way disagree with the way that you handle things. And man alive, if your character grows and comes out better on the other side of the story, you just did it right. You just created a masterful story. Because we can tell a story. That's great. There's a way to tell a story. But if you grow and come out the other side better, delicious. Which brings us into the last S. There's so many S's involved in our bosses. But the last S is secrets. Secrets are essential to storytelling, especially for antagonists, because antagonists have all of their secrets. Yes, I have my secrets. And you, little protagonists, will never discover my secrets. Of course, we find ways to help our protagonists discover the secrets and follow the bread trail until they inevitably come into conflict with the antagonist. Excellent. That's perfect. That's all that we needed those secrets for. But if we think about these secrets ahead of time, that is where you are going to find things run more smoothly. It doesn't matter if your players go off the rails, or if your players sidetrack into who knows what land and go on some side quest to discover the long-lost father's brother's cousin of your roommate. Doesn't matter. It's totally okay, because guess what? You already have secrets created to pull them back. Along the tendrils of your story, come, my children. Welcome to the tale. Because guess what? It doesn't matter where you go. I have quantum secrets. You'll hear of the quantum troll, which inevitably, man, I've been using that word a lot tonight. The quantum troll removes agency from your players. It's choose door A or choose door B. It doesn't matter. You're going to face the quantum troll. Regardless of where you go, you'll fight the same thing. That is not what secrets is. Having secrets means that you know what your players need to know to pull them along the web, that red yarn that takes them from A to B, and you have what you need in order to get your players down the storytelling path. Now, of course, because our players are our players, they're going to take some skiwampus route through who knows what land to meet their father's brother's cousin's roommate's friend. That's great. That's totally cool. But they will go from A to B, because that is where the secrets lead them. So, what does this all look like, right? It's all well and good that we've talked about this. In principle, let's make a villain. As I'm already 40 minutes into this. Well, take 15 minutes off. We're only 15 minutes in, right? You sly dog. You had me monologuing. Easily one of the best. Love Incredibles. Manga, my DM, had an organization. We foiled. We failed. Send assassins after us as an occasion. Ooh, okay. So let's kind of run with that sort of idea. So we've been working in. Let's go ahead and flip the page. We've been working in Mooncrest. If you're familiar with the other episodes that have led us to this point, we've been working in the Rising Tide campaign. And in the city of Mooncrest, we have created this foundation of a city and some structure to go around it, and some organizations and things and la-di-da-di everything. And last week we made an encounter, which I think went well. But now we need a villain, because you could run 5-step encounters all the way down the line and hook them from secret to secret to secret until they encounter the villain, the boss, the big bad evil guy. And so if we take a look at a big bad evil guy, we need to decide. Let's start with a basic description. What is a basic description? Now this is where, please, for the love of all that is holy, interact with me. Give me something. What is a basic description? Something that we could go with for a villain. What would make for a cool villain in this nautical environment? A small hook can catch a big fish, and a 2-minute conversation, a 2-minute conversion can change the world. Bob, you're always dropping such wisdom. Why are you always dropping such wisdom, man? Making they think. So I kind of like the assassin idea. Let's make an assassin's league or something like that. Yeah, so let's go kind of mid-tier, maybe tier 2, tier 3. A pirate vampire captain. Yes, triple dub. Yes, that's what we're doing. Sorry, everybody. If you had a great idea, save it for yourself. We're going with the vampire captain. A vampire captain. El Capitan. Vampire Capitan. And so we have this vampire captain. We need, being a vampire, an old man and a worn captain suit. Oh, yeah. So I kind of like taking manga and applying it. The Scarlet Brigade. Oh, and the most unassuming villain. Yeah, here we go. A super unassuming vampire captain, right? So the Scarlet, the blood. Ooh, I think I'm gonna go with the, like, as stereotypical as it might be, the Bloody Brigade sounds good. Because you can't help but love that alliteration. So let's go with the Bloody Brigade. The Bloody Brigade and the vampire captain. A hook for a hand. Ooh, I don't know if I can go that stereotypical. We do have a vampire. So how can we play off the vampire? Right? What's something that a vampire would normally stay away from, like a cross rather than a hook, like a sharpened cross for a hand or something? A holy symbol. It's not necessarily our world here. Never get straight to the point and let your cliffhangers be legendary is the answer to that one. Thanks, Bob. Maybe he's really upset because vampires can't cross moving water. Maybe he uses ice magic. Ooh. Sunlight. Okay, I like where we're going here with the vampire. So he's an old man. He got turned when he was old. Old man. You know, kind of a worn suit. Magical flowing umbrella following him to give him shade during the day. That's a fun one. I like that idea. Yeah, I'm stuck on the hand. I'm stuck on what we can do with, like, rather than just a hook. What can we do for the hand? That's all right. We've got kind of this old man vibe. We do have to consider sunlight. We do have to consider the moving water. Which has an interesting implication, right? Because, his ship. What would his ship? A wooden stake. I kind of like. I don't know. I kind of like the idea of. Maybe like a silver gilded stake. Ooh, a silvered hand. Ooh, there we go. He's got like this enchanted silver hand that doesn't actually touch him. It's just so he's got this nub, and in some irony, the irony of the man who lost a hand, he's got this silvered hand that just kind of floats, and he can animate it and stuff, kind of like a constant mage hand, but it's a silver object. Yeah, that's super fun. The silver hand. Oh, we might need to do something with that. Captain Silverhand, the silver brigade, the silver. Ooh, something with that might be good. Think How to Train Your Dragon. Yeah, exactly. Maybe it'll turn into claws. Ooh, so it could be like a liquid metal sort of thing, and so he can shape it into different weapons. This is getting cooler and cooler. A liquid metal hand. So villainous, right? What a great villain, right? We're just sitting here 5 minutes of derping around. Liquid metal thing. He has both hands, but one of his fingers is a sail stitching needle. Ooh, he's implanted sail needles into his fingertips or something like that. Ooh, making me all warm and fuzzy. I like it. All right, let's move on because we're time, and there's always time. The objective. Now we have to consider, so this is who our players see, right? Now we have to consider who we see. Who are we seeing this as? What is Captain Silverhand's objectives? The objectives of Captain Silverhand. A vampire captain. What would he want? Or she. This could be a fun female captain. Yeah, this could be a fun female. I did kind of like the old man vibe, but like a female could be good here. So what would be a good objective for a vampire captain? And start thinking about skills. Anybody have any thoughts? What would motivate a vampire captain? That could be tough. Maybe we'll come back to that and talk about skills. So we've got the typical vampire spread. That's great. But I would almost say this could be like a special variation of vampire, that has evolved in order to cross water without problems, or has evolved some resistance to the sunlight sort of thing. So the sunlight's really not a big deal. Because what that does is that resistance, that hidden resistance that your players normally, something that allows them to be a vampire in an environment where a vampire would normally be killed, right? The fact that they're able to walk around in daylight, you never suspect, oh, he's got a silvered hand, you never suspect that's a vampire. Why would he mess around with so much silver and be able to walk around in daylight? How is he able to go out on this ship and come back if he can't cross moving water sort of thing? So those resistances are fun. Having an explanation for that could be interesting. Maybe that'll be lore about this specific type of sea vampire or some sort of there's a vampire show. Ooh, things I know. Trying to amass enough gold to purchase his vampire lover from some sea creatures that abducted her. Hides his assassins on the ocean floor. Throw in the emotional hook for the players. Okay, that could be good. Hides his ooh, if you make spawn, but vampire spawn, and they don't have to breathe, they're vampire spawn or whatever. And so you just, your crew is whatever, but then you have your vampire spawn that clings to the bottom of your deck, the bottom of your hull. And so when you come up to another ship, they swim over to the other ship sort of thing. That could be fun. I also just had a thought. This could be an interesting take. So rather than specifically vampire, like, I want to suck your blood, what if we went into kind of a dragon amass the horde sort of thing? And so a gold vampire rather than a blood vampire. Right? It's all about amassing the treasure. Commander Lacrousay once joined the very kingdom he hated as an officer to bring a long-destroyed, sunk kingdom back to life. If you know the anime, bonus points. I like it. If only it would ever come to an end. Hides his assassin. So, the gold. I might toy with this gold vampire idea and make a whole new vampire sub-race sort of thing in order to give this resistances. Oh, he's a vampire. Like, he acts like a vampire in certain ways. Yeah, it is very Pirates of the Caribbean manga, but when you've got like 6 Pirates of the Caribbean movies at this point, you can't do anything pirate-esque, without being somewhat derivative. It's been done in some nonsensical way by them, which makes me kind of want to do this gold vampire. That way we can mess around with those resistances. Instead, that might provide us that ability to muck around with the vampire stat block and really homebrew something cool and unique there, instead of just being like, yep, it's a vampire that can walk in the sunlight. Like, okay, great. So I might toy with that later off camera and see what I come up with. And if I come up with anything worthwhile, I'll post it to Instagram and we'll all enjoy that together. So skills, that's the objective. I kind of like the, it could be you have to pay gold, but it can't give up gold because it's a gold vampire. And so his loved one or whatever was ransomed for gold, because, of course, this guy's been accruing gold for hundreds and hundreds of years, just amassing this fortune, but he, like, compulsively can't give it up. And so he just had to sail away, and his partner died because he literally could not give up the ransom. So that could be something interesting there. All right, the style. This whole campaign, so we've already played 2 sessions in this environment, in this campaign setting, and it has been raucous, to say the least. My players are definitely more piratical than they are anything else. I set them up to start as kind of privateers, hunt the pirates sort of thing, and it's devolved. It's devolved already. We're 2 sessions in, and it's just chaos. So, as for style, the style of this villain, specifically, not the campaign setting, but the style of this villain specifically is going to be kind of bard-esque, I think, would be a good fit. Manga says maybe it's similar to the insatiable hunger of a vampire, but instead it's an insatiable greed. Yeah, I think that's going to be really good. Maybe cursed by a god sort of thing. So I have a god, the goddess of gold and wealth and greed in my world is called Akamatha. She is the gold goddess of greed. And so she could have maybe cursed some guy that slighted her, perhaps. Ooh, yeah, there we go. The curse of Akamatha. And so this guy is just cursed to hunt gold. And that inevitably led to him having to lose his lover. Perfect. But this bard-esque kind of vibe, fun-loving sort of thing, I think. But ruthless, right? That insatiable urge is there. So it's about the gold, not about the people, right? I don't care if, yeah, sure, keep your ship, whatever. Give me your loot, though. It's about the booty. Give me the booty. So I think it's going to kind of be, it's all about the money hunger here because it's this gold vampire. Manga says, Like that myth of the guy who was punished by the gods for anything he eats turns to ash in his mouth. Yeah. Any gold they obtain turned to something else and sent somewhere else. That could be perfect. So there's a constant hunger for this gold, but anytime like he actually acquires it, we might be able to toy with that. I kind of like the idea of that curse though. But the character, I think, is not going to be like a ruthless, like, oh yeah, kill the player sort of thing. I imagine it more along the lines of like the Riddler sort of vibe. Like it's about the game for them, right? I outsmarted the players because I'm better than them and I got what I needed and I moved on with my day. Though there is kind of the idea of like then you have to think to what degree has the Captain Silverhand been cursed? Have they been cursed to such a degree that, hey, I'm selling y'all into slavery because that means, 10 pennies more or whatever. So thoughts about world building there that you have to consider, but perhaps before the transformation, he was a priest of Akamoth. Yeah, I think that might be good. Things I know, probably a priest or someone who like spurned Akamotha. So the avatar of Akamotha like comes to this guy, very lucrative, very well-to-do, very successful pirate. And so just kind of the avatar of Akamotha comes to him with a deal perhaps, and he spurns her because he truly loved his lover. He had a true love for his lover. And so he spurns Akamotha, and she thusly curses him. Very, very Greek. That sounds so Greek. That's exactly the sort of interaction that would happen. Some god gets spurned by a mortal, and so they curse the mortal. Perfect. That's perfect. Exactly how you expect your gods to interact with mortals. I like it. Yeah, definitely kind of the lover of Akamotha sort of thing. Awesome. Then, of course, our environment. Our environment is taken care of for us because we've got a lot of this piratey vibe. The pirates of Penzance almost. We've got these pirate bards kicking around. It's going to be a blast. It's about the fun. This is a fun campaign. This is not a super hard horror. The theme of the campaign. It's definitely not Lovecraftian in nature. So the environment here kind of writes itself. Super, super easy, super chill. Maybe that's why his hand is silver. It's not affected by the goddess's gold. Ooh, kind of like that. It definitely gives some solid lore for the background of the hand. That could be good. Maybe it was a gift. Ooh, it was a gift. Yeah, spurned by Akamotha, or he spurned Akamotha, and then another god, kind of seeing his plight and like, hey man, sorry about what my wife did. Was given a boon by another god to kind of mitigate that to a degree, sort of thing. So that could be a really cool kind of cross hatch of lore there that I like. And then any secrets this character would have. Well, he's obviously gotten wrapped up in gods. So he has being cursed to walk the world for ages. Definitely has probably a list of maybe things. So he could have things, a MacGuffin. Go to Captain Silverhand and talk him out of whatever insatiable piece of treasure he has. Yeah, there we go. That would be a really great quest for like a king to give the players. Oh yes, ha ha ha! If you could convince Captain Silverhand to give you the crown of Akamotha, which he for some reason has through his time hanging out with Akamotha, to give you the crown of Akamotha, I will bless you with whatever knowledge you're after or whatever. I'll give you the piece of treasure map that will lead you further down the quest. And that would be an awesome thing for them to do, because it's not just... That means that this villain is not just going to be a combat villain. They could go to this person, to Captain Silverhand, and try some persuasion rolls, and that way you could have a great scene of role play. And then when inevitably man, when assuredly, when there's the guaranteed chance that your players will botch the persuasion, you'll have a great combat scene and it will all piece together nicely. So a thing, the Crown of Akamatha. So trying to get something from somebody who has an insatiable urge to collect, it's tough. Anybody who's ever met a hoarder knows that's tough. To get them to give something up is like physically painful for them. So that could be really cool. Fetch me the Crown of Akamatha from Captain Silverhand. That would be a great quest for your players to move them along in your overall quest. So I hope everybody had a great time. I hope you enjoyed talking with me this evening, checking stuff out, learning, growing, learning about bosses and making bosses and all the stuff. And I think we're going to go ahead and cut it off there for the evening. Of course, as always, yeah, thanks for the stream, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate you. As always, have fun. Take care of your players.